Your comic will overwhelm you if you worry about every single panel that you need to make. The truth is, not every panel you make matters as much as you think it does. In fact, there are only two that do. This one and this one. When you nail those two panels, everything in between creates itself. If you're a comic creator who worries about composition, clarity, and pacing, then this rule will stop you getting stuck and start helping you make pages consistently. And if you're new, I'm John, a comic creator from the UK, and you're a comic creator who just wants to finish their comic. I love helping other comic creators finish theirs, and that's exactly what this channel is about, so don't forget to subscribe. Based on the form submissions I've received for critiques on this channel, I know that overthinking panels is one of the most common things that creators do. There are often too many decisions to make when it comes to how many panels you should put on a page and what you should put in those panels. And a lot of creators fall back on the same shots over and over and over again, which can make your comic look dull and not as engaging as you'd hoped it would be. So instead of worrying about every single panel, which is just going to make you overthink everything, just think about the first one that the audience sees and the last one that the audience sees. Now, in order for this rule to work, we need to define what the first panel's job is. So the first panel needs to orient the reader. You need to know where they are in the scene. This is why the most common placement of the establishing shot is the first panel. The establishing shot establishes where we are in the scene: a park, a bar, a spaceship, and so on. But it's not just the location that you need to establish, you need to establish the answer to a question you asked on the previous page. That's where the last panel comes in. The job of this panel is to ask the audience a question or questions. What's about to happen next is the main question you want to ask. Asking that question invites your audience to turn the page and keep reading. And when they do, the first panel on that page should help answer that question. Let me show you what I mean. On this page here, I had two objectives. I needed to pay off the panel on the previous page, and I needed to establish what these characters are here to do. So the first panel has our character stood tentatively outside of this room. This panel pays off this one because I've shown this door here for a reason. And that reason is because that's where they're trying to get to, which is established here. For the last panel, I need to show the audience this flower because that's the item these two characters are here to steal. So I need to show the flower and the character entering the room. And that's it. The panels in between are there to connect these two panels together, and because I know where I'm starting and where I'm finishing, a lot of the decisions write themselves. When you're constructing your pages like this, think about your panels like ingredients that go into a cake. The top and bottom panels are your flour, eggs, and milk, or whatever it is that goes into a cake. I can't be bothered to look it up. But the panels in between those are your icing and your sprinkles and your flavorings. They're what makes the cake the kind of cake it is, like lemon or chocolate or another one. God, I really want the cake now. So if we go back to this page, I've added these panels in not just to bridge the gap between the first and the last one, but to add a little bit of flavor too. This panel here establishes the pecking order between these two characters, adds a bit of flavor to their dynamic. And this panel functions more as a direct bridge to the last panel. We can see this rule in action for the next page as well. On this last panel, I showed the character entering the room and we're establishing this flower as the target. The questions I'm asking the audience are, why is this important and is she alone in this room? Now let's look at this new page and see if I answered those questions. Well, because I knew that I needed to answer the question, is she alone in this room, then the composition becomes quite easy because I'm answering that question by showing the rest of the room in the background. We can see that she is alone. But I haven't answered the question as to why this flower is important. And that's okay if you add more curiosity to the question. Notice the expression on our character's face. She looks a little bit scared, or at least tentative to be stealing this flower. That helps to add even more curiosity to the question. Why is this flower important? Read on to find out. You don't need to answer every single question that you're trying to pose to your audience, but you do need to add layers to them like curiosity or tension. The purpose is to give your audience a reason to turn the page. When it comes to the last panel on this page, I know that I need to increase the tension slightly. I need something new to be added to the scene to keep it moving forwards. So I know that the last panel needs to be this character telling the other character and our audience that shit is about to go down. So again, the in-between panels, the flavorings, write themselves. I want this page to increase the tension, so I show our character very slowly lifting the lid. She doesn't know that there's a ticking clock here, but this character does because they spotted the guards coming. Notice that, particularly on that last page, the first and last panels dictated the pacing of that page. Because I knew what the first and last panels are, I can choose the specific flavors of the in-between panels based on what I feel is important. I could have focused more on the guards in these two panels to help build the tension, and that would have been a fine choice. Lemon cake is nice, but I chose chocolate. My choice was to focus on the flower and how this character feels about what they're doing. The importance to me was the mission itself, the flower and the character, not the potential of them being captured by showing the guards more. That comes later in the scene. Let's look at one more page to show how we can move this tension forwards to a climax. Now, for this first panel, I have two purposes for it. The first is to nail down this character's relationship to this flower. I want the audience to know how important this flower is to this character. We don't need to worry why yet, that can come later, but we need to establish that what they're doing is important to them. The second purpose is to increase the tension with the guards, so I decided that the last panel should be them discovering our characters who are up to no good. And importantly, this character doesn't yet know they are coming because that increases the tension with some dramatic irony. So what do we do for the in-between panels? Well, we need a reason for the guards to discover our characters are up to no good. They could spot this character standing in the hallway with the door open, but why would they have a problem with that? It's not a bad thing for her to be standing there. Instead, I need something to happen in one of these panels that links the first and last panel together. And the flavor I chose was for our character to knock over the vase, so it smashes on the ground. As soon as I found that link, the rest of the page just drew itself. You want every page that you do to set up the next bit of the scene and move towards a payoff. This is one of those skills that gets easier the more you do it, and it's the kind of thing that I help people with over on my Patreon. So if you want guidance or support or coaching, then click the link in the description of this video. Remember, each page that you create needs to have a purpose, and the best way to find that purpose is through the first and the last panels. If you don't have those two figured out, you're much more likely to lose your way and sort of meander and bloat the story, therefore creating panels that aren't always necessarily interesting to look at and are likely to make the audience lose interest. This rule helps you establish how one page leads into the other and how to not get overwhelmed by the volume of panels you need to create. What it doesn't do is tell you when a scene should end or whether you should add additional pages or not. Well, watch this video next and I'll show you a simple checklist so that you will know.